Okay, calling the meeting to order, on the agenda, first item is, as usual, to approve the previous meeting minutes. Tom published those within the last week or so, by email to everyone. Does anybody want to have those minutes read aloud? Okay, if not, we need a motion.
Motion to approve as written.
Second.
Okay, Scott motioned and,
We got a couple of.
yeah, we're gonna get there. That's next.
Okay.
So Scott motioned and Sal seconded. Now I say, is there any discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Don.
Well, the members present, I omitted Sal, so we need to add him.
Okay. And Sal.
And,
And also, my discussion would be, we need to correct the spelling of JR's last name.
and how is it spelled?
Can you help us with that real quick? Or it's on the website. I looked it up.
DEFOSSE.
DEFOSSEY?
DeFoss.
No,
No,
why?
Just E.
Just
Just
E
E.
on the end, DeFosse, yeah,
Okay, DeFoss.
that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah, I remember that.
all right.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? If not, take a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved with those two changes. Or corrections or whatever I'll call it. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is old business, review the list of open action items. I don't think it'll take us very long, but let's do that. Item one, again, Tom published these by email. Item one, investigate the potential and advisability to rent a roadside mower. How are you doing with that? Or lease it?
On the lease, I mean, I have a lease number in the budget now.
Okay, you've got a quote for a lease, is that it?
I got a ballpark of what the equipment costs. And then I put a lease with the current lease rates.
So number one, it can be done. You
Yes.
weren't real sure of that a month ago.
Right.
And number two, is it advisable? You weren't real sure of that either.
Well, I mean, is it advisable?
Is it
the
is it the
answer is-
thing the town really wants to do?
In my view, yes. Simply because they take such a beating and you have them for 7 years, to
Right.
be able to just roll them over
Right.
is a huge benefit.
Okay, and what does Bob the Fourth think?
He-
Does he agree with you?
He agrees with that.
That's what I was wondering. But the reason, the way you started that with, in my opinion, was,
Right.
I wasn't sure if you guys had a difference of opinion on that.
No, we actually went through this yesterday
Okay,
together and double checked everything.
so it's in the plan as a proposed lease,
Yes,
with lease numbers, okay, and I guess we'll call that item complete then, huh?
Those lease numbers, is that just a 12-month lease or like
it's
two?
one payment a year
Yeah, but I'm saying
How
we
many
have
years?
possession of it
at the end.
for the whole year?
Yes,
Okay,
we have it. It's for 7 years. It's in our
It's a
garage.
7-year lease, okay, yeah,
the reason I ask is you know as well as I do, mowing is a fill-in job, not,
It's not a
right,
it's not a rental,
yes.
like where we're gonna take.
It-
like,
yeah,
pump up
it's
with
a
the
lease.
roller.
We
It's
understand,
a,
7-year
it's
lease, yeah.
essential lease purchase.
Ish, yes.
The other thing I
type, but
just
just
heard
a
was
lease.
we own
It
it at
depends
the
on
end,
what's available at the time. we're
Yes.
going to, but
we
that-
own it at the end, or we have
Well,
to
you have
pay
a
for it?
choice of owning it or not.
Oh,
And that'll
Or
make up
turning
a
it
$4,000 or
in.
$5,000 a year difference. But I just put it in there, worst case, I put the higher number.
you put the higher number in the plan right now,
So it's a dollar
which
buy
would
out.
be a lease to own kind of thing.
Yes,
At the end, we wouldn't know a balloon payment to do, to own
No.
it. All right,
$1. That's how
When-
our current leases are for the other
Yes.
two.
so when and how will the decision be made, whether we want to go with the higher lease payment to own it or the lower lease payment? You
Well,
gotta
given
decide that
that-
before you start the lease, right?
Yes,
So how's that, who's gonna decide that, like when?
I mean, the decision, it's in the 26th year,
Yeah,
we would be looking,
oh, so for a year from now, you'll have to just finalize,
correct.
okay,
Cause then,
Peace.
basically, then I will be
Peace.
bringing
Yep.
you
Yeah.
the
yeah, that's good,
documents.
that's good.
This is a planning,
And-
this part of it's planning right now.
I thought it was in 25. I didn't realize it was in 26.
I think what
Okay,
you
so
said
next
was-
year you'll make that final decision.
Right. You said there was like a $4,000 difference between the dollar buyout and the,
Yeah.
do you
If
understand
just
that,
wanna
Claude?
roll it
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
And sometimes it's like, for that $5,000, it's 35 grand. It's like, you want the option at the end and you're gonna get the 35 grand in a trade anyway. You know what I mean? So it just becomes one of those,
Okay, again, we can say that
Well,
next
this
year.
is,
no
the
big
only
deal.
reason I ask is having that option,
Right.
because depending on the operators, whether you want to hang on to it or roll it over.
Right.
That's one of those pieces
I
of
know what you mean, how
equipment
much it gets beat
that
up.
can be destroyed in one summer or can make it 10 years.
And the thing is,
Okay,
though, none of them
understand.
are truly made for that kind of weight hanging off the side, so
Understand,
it does put a lot of pressure on them, so they end up.
that was the reason you suggested,
Yeah,
at least in the first place, yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So Claude, do we
Yeah.
want to leave this as an open item then?
No, I don't, for this year, I think it's a complete action. It will be on the plan next year,
We have a planning item and we can then,
So-
we'll be.
So for this year, I
refining it
think you
next
can call it
It's in here-
complete.
It's in here as a.
Right,
planning item.
right,
Yes.
right, okay. We don't need to carry these action items from one year to the next year, we're just trying to use this as a list of this year's activities to close
Well,
this up.
some way to remember next
Well,
year.
because it's in the plan, it'll be there,
Okay,
it'll be reviewed in the next, in the plan next
Unless,
year.
of course, Alzheimer's catches up, just.
could happen. Could happen.
Okay, number two, establish maintenance contracts for building generators.
They promised me my final contract 4 days ago, I'm just waiting for them to email it to me.
Final contract or final quote,
Quote, like,
Quote.
that we can sign, so.
all right?
Because the proposal that we had that wasn't executed is a year old.
Right.
So they're
Right.
just, we've been waiting for them.
So you're getting it updated, they promised it to you soon,
Yes,
so we're gonna leave that open until you in fact enact the contract.
Yeah.
Still in process. Okay, number three was add actual and future estimated lease costs for the first four pieces of highway equipment. I think I saw those in the plan, right? So that is complete. The numbers are in here,
Yes.
and that was the action to get the
Yeah,
numbers
can
in.
we discuss that, or do you want to discuss that?
We
when
will.
get to it?
When we get to it.
Got it.
I'm just trying to
No, fine.
quickly run
Go
through
ahead.
the actions
Yep.
here, yeah. Number four, devise a strategy to keep master list of all roads on the town website, that's still open, I presume, you gotta work on, that's gonna take a little work. Number five, enter cost estimates for proposed capital repairs to buildings. Are those in here now?
but everything we have is in here.
Everything you have is in here, so you've done what we can do for this year, so I would call that, again, complete for this year, Tom, again, these will be there next year, to be looked at again.
Okay.
Number six, explore the possibility of federal infrastructure grant money to rebuild approximately 50 drainage culverts under Goose Pond Road.
Yeah, and that'll be tied to the issue with the engineer and once we're doing the design and seeing what is available at the time, so. That won't happen it's part of this plan, but
It
yes,
won't
it's
be in this
happening.
plan, yeah,
Because that's actually
It's
in, when you look at the road reconstruction and I have the financing in there,
right?
that's the $1.9 million job.
It's in the road
It's in-
reconstruction in
It's
here,
in there generally, and then all that would do is reduce what we have to borrow if we were to get grants.
so if I hear you correctly, the cost of doing those
It's in
culverts is in here, but any possible grants we might get is not in here yet,
Because we
and
don't.
that would be good news if we get it.
Yeah.
Correct. That's only a positive
All right.
thing comes out. of
You
it.
That would
have
still be
to-
a process.
For the moment, you have worst case, which would be, we don't get a
pay
grant.
for it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because you have to design the job,
right,
show that the job is going to take place, then you can apply for offsetting
Right.
grants. You can't
Right.
apply for offsetting grants until you know what you're offsetting.
And actually,
Understood.
the other piece of that is because there's gonna be two different types of structures, some that may be streams. If we have 5 that are qualified as perennial streams, they will have a different funding source than,
okay,
And intermittent and.
okay,
so it's a very different.
okay. Again, to summarize, right now, we would not wanna, since we certainly cannot apply for the grants yet. We don't wanna be counting on the grants
No.
because we have no reasonable idea, so therefore, what you've done is as much as we can do for this year.
Yes,
You've put the cost of culverts in the plan.
yes,
And we'll get to them, we'll look at them when we get there. All right. So I guess I would call that item complete. Does everybody agree?
yeah, it'll be an open item. all
For this
for a
cycle,
year.
yeah. Number 7, getting the Board of Selectmen to agree to a multi-year plan. With a bond issue. What are we standing at?
We have talked with them and nobody's opposed to it, basically, the numbers that are in here. We'll be bringing to them as we start talking about warrant articles.
If I read the numbers correctly, you assume the board of selectmen will agree, will do.
That's correct.
Well, all right.
Well, here's
Then
what's
the
gonna
voters
happen.
have to approve it, right?
We're going, yeah. This plan is what we're proposing.
Yep.
It's the only way to do these roads in less than 7 years, these 3 roads. And then the other roads are mixed in. When you actually look in here, you see that we're still doing other roads at the
Right.
same time while we got all of it done in the first 2 years without increasing the funding.
Okay, so at the moment, concept only, we're gonna get to the specific numbers road by road when we get there.
Yes.
But from a concept point of view, you're saying that as far as you have reason to believe the Board of Selectmen and you're the select board representative, so
Yes,
obviously will probably agree that the bond, to propose a bond to the voters.
it's preliminary right now, but yes, it was received warmly.
Okay, so they will probably, so we're gonna propose a plan here that will assume the Board of Selectmen will agree. And beyond that, the voters will approve upon. If they don't, then the plan will have to be redone next year. A couple of the roads won't get done, whatever.
Right, I mean, it's just,
Okay,
it's just gonna remain ugly on a couple of.
yeah. So I guess it sounds to me as though, we can't do any more this year. We understand the basis of the plan. We'll look at the specific
I mean,
numbers.
there's no way to do those roads. This
Without
is
the-
going to be presented to the select board.
That's the only way to get
Fairly
those roads
confident it
done.
will be
Yeah,
put forth as
I hear you.
an alternative. You know, the one aspect of this whole thing is, you know, when you look at road reconstruction and road capital funding, the goal is that we have that 400 and whatever $1,000 that we're proposing in here a year, and we're already putting 400,000 in, so it's not even increasing that.
Yeah.
By much, we're just trying to get all the way up to the 460, 470 that it was. But if you take that bond out, within that 400,000, paying that bond, plus you can do other roads, you're able
I see, right.
to have it all at the same time.
And if I'm not mistaken, you did include your estimated payments on that bond in the plan
That
here.
is correct.
Yeah, I believe I saw that, yeah.
Help an amateur at this. When we apply for the bonds, if we get the bond and we get it done, we have all this money shows up in our bank account. And then we use it as we choose, or we draw down on it as needed.
You draw down.
Thank you. Okay.
Good,
Just
good.
good.
Yeah, it's not the
And
money.
the other thing.
Damn.
and
Home
one of the
equity
things
line
that
of credit.
I like to do is have all of my contracts in place so that I don't have to apply for the bond for too much. That's one item.
Yeah.
And the other, depending on with the March vote, it would be a summer allocation, so we might have to get a bond anticipation note, which basically we can get from Mascoma. We can have it there to fund while we're getting reimbursed.
I get you.
Original.
I just wanted to know if it was,
And a
when it shows
helo.
up, but we draw down. That's all.
No,
No.
it's
Yeah.
generally like you would do with the home equity
Right.
loan personally,
Yeah.
that they say you can have
Right.
this much, submit your bills, we
Right.
pay the bills.
Correct.
We don't give you the money to go on vacation.
No, I,
And if
Right,
you use the
right.
municipal
well, I was
bond-
thinking about it differently.
the
You know,
mu-
I was
but I'm
thinking
just
about
saying.
taking the money and investing it and paying off some of the interest, but that's all
Well,
right.
and to be honest with you, the interest,
I thought about it.
it probably we wouldn't make much.
Wouldn't make much.
Most, yeah.
But the bond issue in July that the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank did was about, for a 10-year note, which is what this would be, was 3.19. So that's currently.
So are we open or are we complete?
But that's what I'm trying to assess here with this discussion. We're kind of,
Always practical.
I think it's complete, except for the select board hasn't voted on it yet.
but for the actions of this committee right now, I would say we're complete.
Yes.
You have a plan, you propose a select board.
Right.
The plan could change if the select board for some
Well,
reason
and the
says
budget
no,
committee
but
would go to
in the budget committee, yeah,
too,
yeah.
so.
But for what this committee can do, Tom, yeah, I would say we're complete now after that discussion. Number 8, draft warrant articles, about select board as agents to expend and all that.
Yeah,
It's too soon yet.
Yeah,
We're gonna do that.
I'm actually getting ready to start. I'm getting my bullet list of all the articles and corrections and adjustments
Sure.
and additions we have to do.
We'll leave that open for the moment.
Yeah.
That's
Open?
open, yeah.
Do you have a
It makes
timeframe for presenting the proposed warrants to the budget committee?
My hope is to have them by the end of November,
Okay,
just to have draft ones
understand.
that we can say, here's.
That makes sense. That's
I
about the
mean,
right time.
and to be honest with you, if I get my list complete, I have no problem providing the bullet list that said, we're gonna need a warrant article for this with these requirements.
Yeah.
You know, just a bullet
Yeah,
list,
yeah,
so we
yeah.
know what we're looking at.
And the last action on the action list is, add to the planning tool the cost and grants and other sources of revenue for the work to be done on the bridges, Gristmill and Potato. And I saw those numbers in here.
Yep.
That's complete. Okay, I think we're done with item 2 on the agenda. Item 3, I'm gonna turn it over to Chet. We're gonna review the aggregate plan that he has worked so hard on for the last 2 weeks.
So I wanted
Take us
to-
through it, please, Chet.
this little comparative sheet, just wanted to look at that, because like I said earlier, before everybody got here. Excuse me. When I prepared the document that I emailed everybody, we know that, you know, we have a shortfall from where we're supposed to be budgeting and appropriating to what we need to be. I had used a 3-year cycle. I didn't change any of the documents related to expense. I think except for one, I added the roof for the 44,000 for the senior center. But I was adjusting the appropriations throughout the plan. And when I realized how much it was going up, I went from a 3-year cycle to a 5-year cycle.
By cycle, you mean,
To bring us to
A catch up.
we need to be for a proper appropriation. So this sheet, what it tells you is the recommended appropriation based on the whole model is 1,395,659. That's what we should be budgeting for our capital expenses.
And that's based on whatever we have in the plan at the
It's
moment.
the cost of life, cost of.
all of these.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
So this current year, we budgeted 783,550 is what we've done, so that's a shortfall of $612,000. Okay, so basically, if we take that 612 divided by the 5 years, we get 122,000 a year is what we should be increasing each year, so we don't kill the taxpayers, we just have $122,000 increase for 5 years, and we will get to our appropriation. So when you take the 783,550 and add it to the 122, which is the required increase, you'll see the no expected appropriation, 905,971.
Do you mind if I add one comment at that point?
Sure.
It's not quite as bad as it might first seem from what we learned earlier, meaning, to go from,
783.
783, the shortfall of 612, how do I say this? The new appropriation, the recommended appropriation includes 3 kinds of things that were not in the capital last year, that were not in the 612 number.
Right, and that's down a little further.
We
on
all
this
know
list.
that, but just at the high level here, before you get into more detail, the police equipment, the turnout gear, and what was the third thing? The roads?
Yeah, the road.
We're not
reconstructions.
in the 612 number. I'm sorry, we're not in the 783 number.
Correct,
last
some of
year.
them were in the operations. but
Those
we'll-
numbers were all in
we'll
the
get to
operation
that.
budgets. So it's not as bad as it might seem at first to say, gee, we're $600,000 down. We might have been a couple of $100,000 down, 2 or 3, whatever, it doesn't matter. But
Well, you're adding
Keep that in mind.
103 back, so you're 500,000.
Go ahead.
under.
with you, yeah.
All right, so the expected appropriation, if you added what we did this current year and the 122,000 puts us at 5,970. So that is, once we got done this plan, that's what you would have expected if we were adding the 5-year plan. The appropriation that's listed in the plan right now is $1,024,195. Okay, so that means that if you take the 905 from that, that's an additional 118,000 over the 122. Okay, now the item that Claude was just talking about, the total added categories that came from operating, this was just transferring the items over, is 103,857,
Now,
and that's those 3 items.
that's those 3 items. What about the transfer station buildings, which we didn't have in our plan before?
Yeah, and that would actually be another piece of this.
I would comment on that and say,
Sure.
they were nowhere in anybody's plan last year. They were
But
not
there
in
was,
the
but there
general
was a
budget either.
government, if you look at the way the plan's written, the government building did have an appropriation for general buildings, and we just put that in as an expense item.
Okay,
So there was an item there, and we are counting that in the total plan.
so you don't consider that as something new?
It's
like
not a
turnout
transfer
gear?
from
No, that's,
general
we have
budget.
government buildings, and we might have only been raising, we were putting 40,000 in, I think the
Yeah.
number was. And we had
Yeah.
only 4 buildings listed, just because we changed that to 8.
Okay,
You know, it doesn't really, it's not an ad per se. So the total added from the other categories is 103, and then the 14. So if you add the 14 to the 122, basically, we're up $136,000. Okay, and 122 of it is planned increases to get caught up with appropriation. So we didn't miss by much with what we did. And that's why I went back to the 5-year, because I wanted to get closer.
Okay, and
To
when
the-
we're discussing this at the budget committee level, just everybody should know that we should be discussing the fact that we've taken some expenses out of the regular operating budget. And have now.
You know,
moved
it's
it
3
And-
categories.
And actually, with some of the edits that have already been requested from the committee, Carrie Ann and I were basically talking about these, and after we get done this meeting, we're gonna go back and make those edits.
Those items are worth 103,
No,
857.
I understand,
Okay,
yeah, but we
good,
just,
good.
you know.
And the other thing is that I will tell you that my intention is to leave the 400,000 in the paving, because that was a budget, it'll be in the operating and in here.
Mhm.
And the warrant article will be to create the fund and to transfer it from operating, so
Oh.
there's no net
All right.
increase.
Well,
what I'm
but
saying? We're
are
not-
you
we're
then
not just-
double counting the number if you have it in here as well?
No,
No?
because we're gonna request to take it from the operating budget
Right,
to. the
I understand,
reserve
we
fund.
will do that, but from a planning point of view, if we plan the 400 in here and plan the 400 in general budget,
But,
aren't we double counting it?
right, but we have to, you can if you don't, if you're not cognizant of it when you're saying, when you're looking at how is it gonna affect tax rate? When the warrant article runs for the $400,000 and we have it already over in the operating budget, it will say no increase to the taxes because it's coming from an already budgeted item,
Okay.
is how that would read. So,
I understand how it would read on the ballot. I'm
Right.
still not sure I understand
well,
that it would be correct to have the 400 included in the CIP plan and have the 400 in the general budget. I don't think we'd
but the
want to
CIP
both.
plan, well, but in the CIP plan, we're not raising the $400,000, okay? Like, it's really all about the warrant articles, because just because you're showing the plan of how we're gonna expend it, you're showing it as if we already have the reserve fund.
Oh, that's how you're showing it in here.
We're showing it this, we created the reserve fund, that's what this is.
All
This
right,
is operating as the reserve fund. If it doesn't, this whole thing goes boom.
well, yeah.
And now we're just, they have $400,000 spent for the current year and that's it. So
Okay.
this is the created.
So you
reserve
understand the
fund.
question I was asking, Carrie Ann? That should make sense?
Makes sense, but I do understand what Chet's saying.
Okay,
We wouldn't run the warrant article to raise 400,000. We're
right,
gonna hopefully pass the operating budget and run the warrant article to transfer the money.
And
that I understand,
And the
yeah.
crazy thing is, this one particular year that we're in. We're very fortunate that the default budget has the 400,000 in it because it was in this year's budget. So even if we
Right.
got the default budget, if they vote
We
to
still get
create
the
the
money.
reserve fund, I'd have the money and we can still move it in.
Yes, yeah, right. It's-
Yeah.
The 400 is still gonna be budgeted.
Yeah.
Agree.
So that's.
Yeah,
what
default
it is.
budget or not, the
Right.
400 would still be budgeted. It would still be part of the general budget.
That's correct.
I'm just wanna make sure we
Because
don't.
we don't have a reserve fund, the fear is that we don't get any money for paving next year. If they turn down the reserve article. And they turn down the 400,000 raising it. And we don't have it in the operating budget, you're not.
Then you
paving.
don't have it.
Then you don't have it at all.
anything.
Right,
We don't
right,
have it
right.
at all, we have to.
The worst
have it-
case, you don't have anything, but best case, it almost sounds like we'd end up with 800.
No,
Yeah, no,
no,
all right, okay.
I would.
All right.
I would be a really happy accident.
I just wanted to put.
Yeah. That would be a happy accident from this side, not so much from the
No,
taxpayer.
agreed.
Those who got paved would be happy.
Yeah.
And-
Those
and
few,
the-
yeah, yeah,
The other,
I know.
the other piece of this, because when you look at it with the 122 plus the 14, I had sent this to Carrie Ann. And she did a quick calculation that it really would only make about a $63 difference on the taxes for somebody with the median house in town.
What would make that
The
difference?
123,000, the
catch-up, you mean?
136,000, the 136,000 towards catch-up
Yeah,
would only add about 60 some dollars to.
to the
tax bill,
average home,
To the average home.
okay?
So I
So do
think
that,
it's a
right.
reasonable increase. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question about how this works.
Yeah.
So recommended appropriation is what we're recommending this year,
Yes,
and so the 122
is what we're,
will be added on to whatever the recommended appropriation would be for next year.
Okay, no, not necessarily. Is it the recommended appropriation? When you look at this, like if you take any of these back sheets, okay? In the column where it lists the amounts of replacement costs, at
Yeah.
the bottom, you'll see a recommended appropriation.
Yes,
That's the appropriation that makes this plan work. So what we're doing is we added all of these.
and then you did your inflation,
Yes,
Each
1.03% plus the 5-year difference. So that's how this comes about, where you go from 48,000 to 59 to 70 to 80 to 91.
right? Yeah.
And then, but those are, you see that those have the 3% in them as well.
Okay. So this 122. And I guess I don't quite understand how it's a catch-up.
Okay, we're supposed to be doing 1.395.
That's right.
This is what we did this year,
And that's based on what we've got here,
correct?
here.
What
That's-
this is what we did this current year
Okay,
in total. That's a difference of 612,000.
right,
That divided by 5 is that.
that's right. I got
So
it.
every year, 122 gets added to whatever last year's budget was.
And by the way, that's spread over different categories,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
yes, every when you add them all up, like,
Right.
I broke
understand.
them- we
There's
broke
some
them all
for
up
highway,
over
there's some for
5 years.
this,
Yeah,
there's
it's
some
all
for that,
that
but
stuff.
in the aggregate, it's 120.
Yeah,
yes,
Okay.
it's basically,
that's just saying when you're
But
looking at
that's
the
a
total
timing issue,
capital,
right?
yes,
So.
When we're gonna make the
So
expenditures.
is one way
Yes.
of looking at this then, that this is a gradual way
to get
to
caught up,
catch up from where we are now to where we should be at the end of 5 years.
that is correct.
correct.
It's also addressing all the things that haven't been done that need to be done.
That's,
Goes
isn't
on,
that
brother.
catch up?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one part that actually is hard, it's hard to really get people to really feel is. This. And that are technically two separate discussions, okay? We're trying to get our funding corrected. And then we say, how much can we do of the things that are really problem right now in this process? So we're fixing the amount of money. And then we're gonna put the projects into that and make it work on the flow for the cost of life. And the equipment budget is the best place. It's the easiest example. You know, we know 7 or 8 years, no, 9 years from now, I gotta buy a new dump truck of the one I'm buying right now. And how does that work? Are we gonna have the cash in 9 years? That's the goal of this. And when you look at this bottom group of numbers, that tells you that after we put the appropriation in and we make our expenditures for each year, what the balances we're carrying forward are.
Right.
So that's the goal.
Okay,
So we're fixing appropriations. And then
Yeah.
making sure. our
I
plan
suggest we
works
move
with it.
into the details.
Yeah, this
That
is,
was
by
the
the way,
summary.
you realize that most of the people in town, this is way over their head, right?
Yeah,
But I
I'm
will
just
tell
saying
you,
that-
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
not the first time I've done this.
I understand that.
And we explained it, and it's the cost over life, and I think the one thing that's a real benefit, and like the paving one is actually a really good example. When if we get a paving reserve fund. And everybody wants to approve a bond, actually, no, let's go back to equipment. We just approved the lease last year. That everybody's paying and it's a separate line item.
Yeah.
Well, when we modify that language, to allow the select board to expand and stuff like that. We also want to make sure we can include the leases in there. And if you do, you're saying you're gonna give us 300 and whatever $1,000 for equipment. But that includes leasing, you don't care, you're only gonna give that amount of money, it almost gets to be like the ambulance where we're gonna give $180,000 a year. And you guys figure it out.
You
within
guys
that.
figure it out.
And that's what you're gonna do for paving, it's what you're gonna do for equipment, it's what you're gonna do for bridges.
Right.
It's a fixed amount of money that you can expend and make sure we don't get outside of it and we keep our equipment up. And our bridges and our buildings.
I could comment on South Point. I think the analysis that Chad has done here is very good for this committee, very good to explain to the select board, it's very good to explain to the budget committee. You're right, the general public. Now, the general, if I,
Yeah, go ahead.
I believe, as far as this stuff is concerned, the general public will read the CIP report that I'm gonna write.
Mhm.
When I write it, I'm gonna summarize this stuff. I'm not gonna try to peel these things apart, because it would confuse the heck out of the
Right.
voting public.
Exactly.
So I will try to make this in everyday man's language. But this is needed for us, and the select board and the budget committee.
Because half of the
But I will
people
say
are
we
gonna
did-
be confused by the summary.
Yeah, yeah,
We did this with the water system, and it's basically, you know, if you put out a couple of fact sheets to say, here's the facts. All leases or loans would be paid within this fund. All, you know, and it's like, you just make the basics. This is your fund to take care of this
Yeah,
fund.
I saw all that. To Sal's point, I think 3/4 of the voters in town did not even understand that summary,
Okay.
to be honest.
Yeah,
Well, I
I mean,
think-
we've got the problem right now.
It was
That
kind of
I've
complicated.
already started conversations with people in town who talk to people that expect a surprise when you get your tax bill, because people forgot a $350,000 value in warrant articles of long-term debt last March. This year becomes general operating budget because it is now an annual fee. It's no longer warrant article. So you've already got $350,000 that you added to the budget that you're now going to pay
Are you
for.
talking about those 4 leases?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the benefit of those things being within one fund to pay them.
Yeah.
You just say, you don't care about, it's not another item you have to worry about, it's
It's-
coming out of this.
Okay,
Yeah, because
I
doing
think
it,
we need to move to.
Okay,
doing it this
sheet.
way, it becomes general operating
Yep.
budget
Agreed,
line
understand.
instead of warrant
Okay.
article 2 surprise.
Yeah,
So-
just, there is a group, and you know this, Scott, so do you, Claude. There is a group of people in town who don't like the concept of leasing. They want to buy the equipment.
I can't afford it.
Well, we understand that, but I'm just saying that conceptually,
Yeah.
they're, you know,
That's true, that's true,
they're
yeah.
like this. Let me finish, right?
Yes,
So when we're talking to them, we need to make sure that they understand that, look, the leasing business, the bond business for the, you know, for the roads or whatever we're thinking about, right? Those things are already in the budget. And when we get to a certain point in time, we will have the option of going back to buying things if we want versus leasing them. But
Well,
this
no,
gives
and
us breathing room between now and then.
I actually had that conversation with Nate after one of the first conversations we had about it. And I said, look, I did this before. It took, with the equipment, when we were running behind, it took 6 years, I think. And we were right back to buying cash.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Well, if
this
you
is a
want to,
temporary,
That's
this
the
is a
choice.
get
You get
caught
the
up.
choice at that
So
point.
you're right, and I'll try to include that thought in the summary report.
The goal, like, I will say this, like, when you talk about the road bond, when you talk about any of this. It's all intended to be, like, if we go the 10 years with the road bond and keep the other roads going, you should never have to do this again if you're funding correctly.
Right, understood.
And I think you need to say that.
Yeah, no.
I will try to
yeah,
say it in
the
a
goal
written
In
report,
every
for
one of
sure.
these cases is,
Right.
at the end of these things that are being paid in this budget, if you keep this budget where it is, you should never have to borrow money again.
Mhm.
That's the intent.
So if I could pick
I
up on
get
that
it, I'm
thought,
just saying.
Yeah, I
that
know.
you,
it needs to
obviously
be
you get, we
explained in
get
more
it.
layman terms is.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
So in addition to my writing the summary report that way, maybe a lot of people don't read that summary report, perhaps somewhere down the line in a couple of months, would make sense to include that summary level view of why we're leasing and bonding
Yes.
in the weekly newsletter that goes out,
That's
that a lot more people see.
Yeah, that would
Maybe
be
some
my intention.
communication like that would help too.
see, part of the problem right now with these 4 pieces of equipment. Because I felt misled because I was one specifically asked the question, are we leasing or are we doing a lease purchase? They were under the impression that the town was leasing this equipment
And it was going back.
and it was going back. When the paperwork came, I got a copy of the paperwork. First thing I did is get a hold of Chet. Did they give us the right paperwork or were we not being told? Because this says lease to purchase.
Okay,
Well, it's
It's-
a $1 buyout.
It's a $1 buyout.
okay, got
but
it.
Somewhere through conversation, through salesmen and everything, and the state of affairs we were in administrative wise and everything with openings, there was communication gaps. People were not misled, but not given all the
Understand.
information correctly,
Yeah,
which I think as long as we stay ahead of it and stay on top of it, I don't foresee, you're always gonna have people that are just dead set
of
against
course. Of course.
Right, but under the
I get
$1 buyout at the end, you do have the option of trading it in effect
Oh, yeah,
for new
Yes.
equipment.
Well, once you.
For its
own it, you can
value at
trade
that
it in.
point.
And
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying, and enter
Yeah.
into another lease if you
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
That's
Right,
correct.
which is,
When
just
you have the
option.
buyout option, you have the option of gaining equity.
Yes.
Right.
When you don't take that buyout option at the end of that lease, they come get it and your
Yeah.
yard's empty. You have
Right.
nothing.
Yard's
That's
empty,
my
you have no
concern,
equity. Yeah.
that you have the
Yeah.
buyout option so that you gain equity for the money
Yeah,
spent.
right, but if you think about that, it really comes down to the state of gear.
Yeah.
Right, and whether or not you think it's a good buy.
Yeah.
Or whether you're better off trading it in
Yeah.
and.
Yeah.
Getting a new piece of equipment.
Well, and this
Either
is-
under another lease or whatever, because then the lease payments will be reduced theoretically by whatever
Well,
your
one of the things
value is, right?
that.
So you have options and I
Yeah.
think that's what's important is to stress with people.
Yes.
That this gives us a lot of flexibility.
Yes, no, we want the flexibility because one of the things that Carrie Ann's been working on, and then our new mechanic, we're looking at a software package to be able to track the repairs. You also, if we get a better tracking mechanism, we can actually track, this truck has been costing us a fortune for the last 3 years, and we want it to go
I
away.
understand.
Versus this one is like, let's wait a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, that's the flexibility that
Yeah.
you're trying to build into the new
Correct.
plans that we've been working on.
Yeah, because the
Right.
last I was in Enfield, the last truck that I traded in, I told them the truck that's going to be traded in toward this will be one of those three.
Right.
Because I wasn't going to lock into a trade and then have this one all of a sudden be looking at $20,000 engine repair.
We need to move along. We gotta get through we got like 6 sheets of numbers to go through here, so let's do it. First one up is the police department. Sal pointed out that the $48,000 number shown in the 2024 column did not occur. So Chet's gonna fix that, right? And that will change the balances forward, might change the appropriations
Well,
needed,
but
et cetera.
but there's also the other piece that I don't have yet from Ryan, is the 34,000 and the 68,000 for the cameras and all the camera work.
Right?
Some of that may be, we're paying the 50,000 up front. It's $112,000 or $14,000 the total. Some of that may be leased out, and then we'll be adding that as payments going forward.
Right. Is that the
Why-
only grant that he's got is the 50?
Yeah,
Why would we
Right now.
lease
Yeah,
cameras?
He has others
and-
that he's applied for.
because we
correct?
can pay like $8,000 a year instead of 50 right up front.
So considering a lease is what you're
Well, we're
saying.
considering a lease for the balance of the money. The first 50 will be paid in cash, and we're considering the lease with the balance. And I will know that very shortly.
Now,
So
is
right now you
that,
got 103 and what you want to do is pay off 50 and then lease the rest.
is that lease with the same spirit as the other lease discussion we had, meaning hoping that it bridges the gap and at the end we go back to outright
Well,
purchase?
Yes,
Or are you thinking the cameras should be leased forever?
that, we will know that in 5 years.
Again, that gives you the
You know what I
flexibility.
mean? The
Cameras
reality
do-
is, if you look out in 2030, you see them purchased again, so the
Yeah.
plan is not to lease them, it's to buy them outright.
Thing we have to look at is cameras have a shelf life
Yeah, right.
and
That's why I asked if,
yeah, and that's what, and your trade-in value because of the shelf life generally is very low.
yeah, of course. it is.
My
Right,
hope, my
right.
hope is that, with the exception of government buildings, the goal should be, or a bridge, like a big project, mega projects. Financing, we would try to avoid financing.
Right, right.
Okay, we're at a place where we got 3 items we're gonna need to catch up on. It was equipment.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to do it with roads, and we're gonna have to do
Well,
it
it's
with.
the financially
urban
responsible
development.
thing to do.
But the goal is not to going forward.
Understood. And just didn't know about these two since we never talked about leasing before today.
Yeah, we
On
did.
cameras.
Yeah, because they had given us a
Oh,
quote. When they
we
gave
did,
us the
okay.
quote, they gave us the number and they gave us a lease payment. But we gotta see about paying the 50,000 and getting.
It just seemed to me that this lease was for a different reason than leasing the 4 pieces of $300,000 and $400,000 equipment.
Right.
Because we couldn't afford to buy the equipment.
Well, and that's where we
This
are
lease
now.
seems to be for a different reason. It's not because we can't afford to buy cameras. It might be because of
It may be that we
shelf
can't-
life and
It
whatever
may be that we can't afford,
obsolescence.
we can't afford that purchase within these confines.
Okay.
We might have to add to the
All right.
budget to buy in cash.
Next question on police is, the number in the next year's plan is for new cruisers,
Yeah, I know.
53,000. The numbers thereafter need to be inflated, right?
Yeah.
They
I got
shouldn't be
inflation
50,
risk on
50,
it,
50,
so,
50. See those numbers, everybody?
Yeah.
So you're gonna fix that too?
Yep.
All right.
So I got a question on the police department equipment balance forward line. It's 50 in fiscal year 24, it's 5583. But then the next one is 1583. So is that a typo or is that?
No. Actually, both of those should be over in the one to the right for actual. They were not planned to be bought this year, but we're gonna be buying them and it's gonna come out of the base fund we have. So the guns are being purchased, they've already been ordered, and the vests. So they should have been in the actual line, not the budget line.
Yeah, but those were prior, Tom, I believe that those were in the operating budget.
Right.
They were in the operating budget,
That's
right?
correct.
Why do you want them on the capital plan?
They were put here with the numbers.
So we
And I
have the
probably,
numbers.
when we got the numbers and we were including them here. And they said, oh, when we buy 2024, so it showed there, I gotta just put the next round.
So the
I
question
gotta
is, do
change
you
the date.
delete these
I just have-
rows?
No, I have to change those two dates.
But you're gonna leave them in the capital plan from now on?
Yes.
That's my question.
Yes,
So is there an inconsistency between the 5583 and the 1583?
I don't see the 5583, Tom, where we.
yeah, well,
That's at the bottom of the budget line.
Oh, yeah,
This
yeah,
is gonna
I
come
see
out
it.
of here.
Okay,
It's gonna come over here, so here, it's gonna go back over here.
there's no
This one,
48,000, Tom,
This one.
I'm talking about this number up here.
and
Yeah,
there's no.
We'll be, this is part of what we're talking about, we gotta fix. So that's the one item. I
looks
gotta-
like
48,000
basically all the
doesn't
numbers in the
exist.
police category need to be
See the
fixed.
48,000 in there?
Yeah,
That doesn't exist, we never
In
put the money in.
24. That didn't happen.
It should read this year, not that year.
okay.
So the 1583 is an accurate number,
Yep,
right? The
Yep.
48 does not exist.
right.
The 31 and the 13 are coming out of the operating budget, but they're there just as a place marker so that he can project them out into the future. Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
police, good.
okay, so looks like we need a lot of work on the numbers in the whole police section. All right. What's next? We have fire department. I see here you have numbers in for leasing engine 2.
Yeah.
Proposed leasing, starting in 2026. Are those the numbers for a ladder truck?
Yes.
And that is
And
up in
that-
the air
I
at the
just-
moment.
I was told today that may change.
That may change. They may go back to a regular engine.
So
But
that
for the
number-
moment, those
that number-
numbers
are correct.
represent, correct, those are the best estimates for the least cost for a ladder truck.
Right,
All right, over how many years?
7.
7-year lease? Okay, and then the 175,000 out in 29, what's that for? SCBA,
SCBA.
okay. So we would buy new SCBA's for the whole department all at once.
Yeah, because the way the masks work and the tanks, it's all together.
It's all
It's a
integrated.
big deal.
Okay,
One-
all right.
One big shot.
okay. And then turnout gear. My only comment about turnout gear is it appears that the price per set for each person is about 2 or 3 times now what it was projected to be a year ago. It seems to have jumped way up on a per set basis. Did you have a chance to?
We went through that. These are the numbers that we were quoted.
These are the current-
These are current quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I can't question those. They just.
Yeah.
it seems
No,
to me
these
like
are
they got a lot
these are
more
the
expensive.
current, yes.
Yeah,
You do have quotes.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
yeah.
One of our rules last year we said is for things like
Correct.
this, we want to have quotes and we need to.
For
know
things to
that.
be procured within the
Yes.
coming year,
Yeah.
yes. You can't really do quotes for 3 years from now,
Right, no, we
nobody will
understand.
quote now. All right, let's see. This brings us to emergency management system, the ambulance department, right? And it shows the 3 stretchers being bought next year. My first question is, if we buy those 3 stretchers next year, and our stated intent was to, in the future, when we buy a new ambulance, get it with the stretcher. The
Of
question
course,
is,
say we should only need 2, because
Why
the
would-
ambulance came with one.
It is 2. That price is 2.
that's for 2, all right,
Yes.
got it?
Because we got the new ambulance that came
Fine,
with one.
good. So my question still remains though, out in 2030, why would we buy stretchers again at $168,000? As a separate item.
This is what I was told that we needed to do. I don't know that every ambulance is gonna come with them.
Well, we said the
Yeah.
intention would be to buy ambulances with stretchers included in the future. Which would mean that $168,000 number should go away, wouldn't it?
I will check with Jordan.
Yeah,
And then they do start to run a deficit out in 2032.
Well.
but that's not our concern.
No, I understand it's an
Yeah, yeah.
enterprise.
But if that were,
fund, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying
if the
that,
168 is eliminated, that'll go away.
because we're putting in, the town is kicking in, 105, 109.
Well, let's talk about that.
But again,
I'm not sure about
from the
that.
town's perspective, the town has given them $180,000.
That's,
We're applying that amount to this.
you're assuming they're gonna apply 105 of the 180 to
Yes.
this next year.
The 180 is happening regardless. The 180 is all there is related. to
I have a question about that. Is the 180 to the enterprise fund in the general budget?
Yes.
Yes.
If it's in the general budget, then I'm not sure we should include that as warrant to capital reserve.
No, it doesn't have to say that.
I think we should have an offsetting number here. Just like we do in bridges. Like that money that the general budget puts in the enterprise fund, that the enterprise fund will put toward these vehicles. And therefore, it should be a net zero warrant to capital reserve on here.
Right,
That's what I think.
all right.
Everybody agree? So can you add a line number like that?
Yep.
From enterprise fund with the offsetting value?
Yep.
I think
Basically,
that,
it's whatever
no.
we're gonna spend on.
will
capital
that change the
year.
bottom line number math a little
No,
bit?
because this is not in there.
You didn't include that in there.
No, because it's
Oh,
not part
that's-
of,
that's
it's not part of the
enterprise fund,
raise.
Yeah, we're just overseeing it, just for
Right, you're
kicks,
just-
And that's okay, I don't mind
just
that,
for shits and giggles.
Right.
but I thought perhaps you would include
Because the
that.
same conversation, we had about a 35-minute discussion at the budget committee about
Right.
ambulance, and like,
Yeah, yeah.
we got near the end, Mike goes, is the 180,000 changing? I said, no.
Okay, move on. My question here was this warrant to capital included in the grand total warrant to capital?
No.
You just said no,
No.
so, all right. We should show the offsetting number then, I think, all right. What's next? Highway Department, equipment. I have a question about the GMC #2 crew cab pickup to be bought next year for $85,000.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the mechanics report that we got last month. And it says that vehicle's in good to excellent condition.
It's not that one. There's two of them. They said that the crew cab pickup,
Oh,
it has a body on it. There's two pickups.
oh,
There's two GMC
There's two.
2500.
One is
I get
one is the
confused.
one, and they
Sorry.
always get handed down.
sorry, sorry. All right, that's fine. The one you want to replace is truck number 2. Got it, got it. Any other questions? Does anybody else have?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
so we-
appears that we do not have any inflation values going forward.
Yeah, because technically, right now, the 300,000 has an inflation factor. The current replacement value is 275, so I just left it alone for now. But I was gonna add inflation. I have a note on here to do that.
Right, well, then it would probably be helpful if you got a 275, maybe you
Go
should. put
275 with the
and then let
inflation.
it roll
Yeah,
out.
that's what we got, but I'm still waiting for my new revised quote for this.
I
current
understand,
truck.
I'm just, because that way we keep it consistent.
Yeah.
So Mike,
Okay,
say, knowing that next week's supposed to be our very last meeting where
Right.
we would vote to approve whatever numbers are gonna change in the next 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Approve that as the plan that we go forward with to the public. When are you gonna do that? About these inflation and these,
No,
and
they're
these
gonna be
numbers?
done this
They're
weekend.
gonna be done before next meeting?
Yes.
All right. All right, other questions in this category? Charlie, got any more?
Did
Uh,
we,
no,
the Hudson 6-ton trailer?
Yeah.
Did they ever give any plan for lifespan on that?
we didn't get anything on it.
Cause we've got
Zero.
nothing.
No, and I asked, and Bob didn't have a number for that yet. So, but we have no plan to replace it right now, so I'm just gonna stick that number in when he gives it to me.
Yeah, cause I was gonna say it's in pretty good shape and it
Yeah.
doesn't get much use.
we're
That's
not-
why
We have no need to be buying that anytime.
I just didn't know if we
Somewhere in
should, if just have a replacement cost in there, but not necessarily a schedule for that.
Correct.
Schedule could be 15 years in the
Yeah.
future.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a number of these items you're recommending in 2020, well, starting actually in 2025. These are the leasing numbers for some of the things that have already been approved.
The two that are in the 2025 plan are the two that are being purchased,
Correct.
and then the other two start the
Start,
following year, because
following year.
if you do an arrears lease, you pay the first payment.
not only that, the equipment's not here yet.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and, but those numbers are now gonna start to come out of the operating budget, correct?
No,
No,
the intent, well,
go ahead.
I will, and this is another one of those, the cart and horse thing.
Yep.
The goal is that we are going to modify the equipment fund to be able to pay for these. Everything should come out of that appropriation. Anything to do with equipment. There shouldn't be any other method of paying. We're buying trucks. Just whether you use financing or not has no bearing on it coming from the reserve fund. So technically, this should all come from the reserve fund to pay for these. It should not be a separate line item in the operating budget, if we can do that. I'm checking with the attorney.
Right.
There you go.
So-
That's what the only
Yeah.
question I was gonna ask, is we need to be sure that
Because I wanna
the
make
state law,
sure, given the way it was
allows us to
approved,
do
because we
that.
also
Yep.
said we might have to do a modification this year.
Right.
And if we have to do a modification to the lease to pay for it from here, I may have to do that.
Right, because it was very clear that I'm pretty sure the warrant article said we're gonna be taking the money out of the operating budget.
Right, and I think we would
Oh,
correct
did
that,
it?
that it's gonna come, because I would rather than
Yeah.
say, well, we're gonna get to the proper level of funding and the equipment takes care of equipment. Lock, stock and barrel.
Right, if you could figure that out.
I'm
that would
fine
be
with that, as long
lovely.
as the
I'm-
lawyer
I'm
says
working
it's
with the
okay.
attorney.
That of course would be lovely, but
It's- yeah.
Well, the intention is, well, I would argue this also. If I can't do that and it's gonna come out of the other,
yeah,
then we will be reducing the appropriation on this
right.
to compensate for that, because I still want equipment money taking care of equipment.
So theoretically,
Right.
right now, you're
Right.
assuming that the appropriations you're recommending and the warrant articles to go into capital reserves.
Right.
Handle it this way,
Correct,
which means that the operating budget will be lowered.
correct.
Right.
But it
Right.
won't be lowered. Because we'd have to make the same thing we were just talking about. We want to transfer it from the operating budget to here, no cost to the reserve fund. They're not raising any additional money. Because if we don't get the reserve, we don't get the adjustment approved, I can't make the payment.
Okay. now-
See, it's gotta show in
You
the
follow what I'm
general
saying?
I
budget.
do.
So,
Yeah.
so the goal is we would technically be reducing the operating budget by those two numbers.
Right,
But they're gonna sit there until the voters authorize moving them.
right, but,
Okay.
okay, but when we get to the
Same
budget,
discussion we had on the roads.
Yes.
but when we get to the
400K,
budget,
yeah.
we're not gonna have these numbers in the budget. Because
No.
we're,
No,
right,
there would be, we're gonna modify the fund, there would be no raising it from taxes for equipment.
Right.
Well, it would be the difference,
okay,
okay, like,
Yes,
I
yeah.
think we're at what, 232 minus the 150 or whatever it
yeah,
is.
gotcha. Okay,
Okay, that's how it would
yeah,
operate.
I'm just trying to keep my two hats straight.
You know, and that's a good conversation, because the reality is, equipment takes care of equipment, and if we have to split it in two places, that's what we'll do.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, cause we've got to cover, we've gotta be sure to cover with the general budget, long-term debt.
Right,
And then you can transfer it once that's approved, because you can't put it as a warrant article, that gets defeated. Now you're.
Yeah.
Now you're in default of the money in the budget to pay that debt.
Yeah,
But
believe me,
you
I
have
had,
to-
I had the same
yes.
argument with my accountants all the time.
yeah, no, you.
What pocket I'm taking this
We have
from?
everything, we have to leave where it is with the intent of moving it, and
I'll take it
not
into
raising
your
any
pocket.
additional.
Okay, all right, any other questions on highway equipment?
No.
Okay, next sheet. So I have a question on this next sheet near the top, this line, total recommended capital reserve appropriation. What is that row supposed to mean? It's got the 763 number on it.
That's because it's playing games, it's just doing the equipment, that one's coming out. That whole line,
That whole line's coming out?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I
Wherever it
wondered what that
appears.
was intended.
because
to
what
be.
it was doing is it was
All right.
giving you a culmination of all equipment.
All right.
I understand. So, there, because it appears in a number of places, it's coming out of all the places.
Yes,
Okay,
All right, so the number above it, capital reserve, the blue line, capital reserves equipment balance forward. Starts out at 391 and change. And so on. Is that just for highway equipment capital reserve?
yes,
Okay,
and you only run,
just highway equipment, okay.
yeah, you run a little short in 2032 again, right?
Looks like
Yes.
maybe
2027.
2027 a little bit,
Or maybe 2027.
34,000 in 2027.
Yeah, we're gonna make a couple of
That's
adjustments.
small,
to that.
given
Yeah.
these numbers.
Yes,
That's close to, it's close to even in that year. And things will change between now and then for sure. But then it looks like it does go,
Which one are we talking about here?
we're talking about the blue line near the top of the page.
Under which?
Capital reserve for equipment.
Okay, gotcha.
Capital
Never mind,
reserve for
yeah, got it
equipment.
now.
If you look in the 2027 column, there's a red number. See it?
Yes.
Now, but it gets bigger. That number's not, doesn't concern me, but it gets bigger in 29 and 30.
It's a 38 and then it goes down to 3,000, so.
Oh, that's-
I just have to make, I just have to make.
Oh, that's
The original-
3,000.
3,000.
The original
I was
one,
reading
yeah, the
The
original
red and the
plan that
blue
didn't
one,
happen.
code line.
The one you sent out.
What's the difference?
Yeah, when I
between-
sent it to you, when I modified some of these
One second.
appropriations,
Got
I
it.
got a little tweaking to do.
All right.
Understood.
What's the difference between those two blue lines? One, they're both capital reserve.
This
equipment
one's,
balance
this
forward.
is total equipment. This line is supposed to be police, fire, ambulance, and this what this one is. This is just.
Just highway. So you should add the word highway to the first blue line on this page, please.
Yeah, the problem is the equipment line, well, it'll disappear.
It-
Yeah.
No, not the one that's gonna disappear. The one that shows the couple of
Right.
negatives.
Yeah.
That line should say capital reserves, highway equipment.
Well, yeah, it said highway department equipment. That's what that should have the same wording.
It should have the same wording, is what
Yeah.
I'm saying, right there on that blue.
Got
Then
it.
the next blue line down is all equipment,
Yeah, that's just.
police, fire, highway,
that's
everybody.
leaving.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, government buildings, all right, let's look at that. What's this $178,000? Is that a grant? What's that grant? 178,
That
820?
is the meeting house grant that they're voting on over the next month or so.
Oh,
Basically,
yeah.
okay, if we're gonna spend the $195,000 for the meeting house, it means that we got those grants.
Okay, got it.
Otherwise,
Otherwise, that particular
Got
project
it.
will be left out.
yeah,
Ah,
because
Because the town is only, if you notice, if you actually do the
Ah,
math, it's
yeah.
only $16,000 that the town is coming up with. That's all we
I
have
see,
planned.
I see, okay. I'm glad I asked. Okay,
and
good,
he's been
good.
raising some of that private, right, like through donations
Well,
and
I
stuff.
think 50 of it is coming from the preservation fund.
Uh-huh.
I think 50 of it was coming from there. The L chip was like 70.
yeah, and right now,
Yeah, I don't know the numbers. but
yeah,
it's
right
got the
now,
numbers.
those two decisions have been postponed into November.
I heard I heard the other one wasn't. When I got the email from John today.
Okay, then they did go through with
I
the,
think, well, he said.
because LCHIP has
L
been
chip,
postponed in like November 11th or
he said it
13th.
was coming in the next couple of weeks. The other one postponed further, whatever, I
Yeah.
forget what that one was. And that the L chip right now is on time.
Okay. Because I know there was, he got
But he-
notice that they both decisions could be delayed and.
Right. So, yeah, so that's where that is.
Got it.
And the
So,
only thing that I added in addition to that was the 44,000 for the senior center roof.
oh, yeah, for
And
the,
technically, that is a duplication right now to the operating budget,
oh, really?
yes.
That's also in the
Because
operating budget?
that's where it always has been,
Has been in the past.
and we now, my goal is if we leave it here, we can then suck that one out, because this fund already exists.
Right.
Yeah.
So when obviously, I'm assuming you need to decide that pretty soon.
Well, my plan was is if you don't have an objection, it'll be tomorrow.
Oh, all right.
Wait a minute, wait, I missed that, I'm sorry.
Fair enough. What
The
he's saying is,
$44,000 is in the operating budget.
Yeah.
Under the buildings things.
Yeah.
But it should be coming in the capital reserve budget.
Okay,
and
And
he's
we're gonna
asking
be
if we
taking it out
agree.
of that fund and it's gonna stay here unless there's an objection here.
no objection by me.
Scott?
So that will come right out of the operating budget and that's done.
Okay. All right,
And then can we talk about
got
timing
it. Now,
again on the $300,000 for the,
well, before we
Go ahead.
get
You got
there,
something else?
in the coming year, the 30, the 8, and the 15 is what we talked about last
Yeah.
time for the For the
transfer station.
transfer station, for those 3 small buildings. Okay, good. Go ahead, Sal.
right, just the timing again on the highway garage edition? Is that gonna be something we wanna do in 2026?
It's something we want to do. I don't know is the
I
time
don't know
factor
that
is
the
going to allow.
300,000 will do what we need to do. I don't know very much as far as what's gonna work. I know that I don't know if you guys noticed out back today, but they were digging big holes out behind the garage. Because Bob almost lost his mind when they were they put some plows on and they had all uneven ground and they were on the dirt. He goes, we're building a flat gravel pad so we can actually sit these things on them. You know, but it will be a big help if we go that direction. I don't think the 300,000 is enough. I left it there because it's been there.
Yeah, I think we need to leave it there because it's a step forward.
Right. I mean,
That
right
shows,
now,
that shows we've got money started in that
Agreed,
direction.
agreed.
And
and if it became a $400,000 project, if we slid it back a year, we can still do it. And then we just slide the other thing back. So we
Got
have the ability to play
Right.
there right now. It's just a placeholder.
right now it's in, like you and I spoke to Bob about, it's in conversation as to what direction we can go that is going to make the most sense going forward.
Like, we don't actually have a plan yet,
No,
right? Number one.
No.
And that's fine. So this is a place to keep holding.
This was something they did an estimate of adding. on
I know,
one
I
side, and we're
was,
gonna
I
leave
was
it
involved in
there.
it, I get it. And then the 400,000 for,
That was library town office renovation.
yeah,
I thought that
Again,
was, I thought that was.
no plan,
No
no,
plan,
nothing.
no, you know, there's, depending on grants and stuff, I mean, there's been talk about the log cabin and putting a welcome center and.
I've heard them all.
Those things. So I have no idea.
I've listened to them all.
yeah.
Maybe what we should do is just for kicks, move it out a year,
I
and
thought
that way
the
you won't
office
be,
and the
quite
library
as
were
bad.
gonna be done sooner. I thought there was, that they were gonna be done sooner than 28.
Well, it was originally in 27. I slid it back. And then when I made the other adjustments to my appropriation, it really needs to go back one more year.
I think that's right.
What you might be thinking about, Tom, is the repairs to the library that occurred this year.
Well,
That-
they're
That's what he's
done, I know
thinking
that.
They're done.
Yeah,
Oh, you
exactly
knew
what
that.
he's
Okay.
thinking
This is
All right.
basically.
This is about replacing the town office.
But I know, but it gets kicked back.
I hear you.
I can tell
It's,
you,
it's the stepchild. It
Yeah,
gets-
yeah.
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
the only thing I will say about it. I kind of know where everybody, what they're talking about now. They want to make use of the third floor. $400,000 is a down payment.
To
You are
renovate
not-
that building.
Because the third floor would have to be structurally reinforced.
Sure.
It would need a real elevator. 400,000 may cover the elevator.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot
Doesn't
more
work.
investigation to happen that we can actually make a real plan as to how that'll work.
No, I think just roll it back another year and then we'll see.
Well, for the purposes of conversation, we keep a placeholder, we're gonna work on adjusting it. I mean, obviously, we wanna do any of these things sooner than later,
We understand.
so.
The question I would ask you is, new perspective, is the current town office at least functional?
I guess.
I know
that
we would
depends
like a lot
all-
better.
Depends
no, no, no,
upon, you
not
know, what you
It
think
really
is
depends
functional.
on what you do by functional. Can he survive? Yes. Is it functional? Not really.
No,
Not really.
Basements, like sewer gas every morning.
Every
Oh,
morning,
really?
every morning. It's a-
Really?
Yes.
Parking is a
Well, we're
problem.
gonna get a real nasty grant. Primex came in, did their audit, and they are very unhappy with them being down there at all.
yeah.
Exits, it's all an mess.
So
We're
there's
gonna
a-
get a
yeah,
very
I think
ugly
everything needs
report
to
from
be
the
done
insurance
there, yeah.
company, so.
Yeah, because they're
And we
going
don't
to,
have file storage, our vault is shot, because it's. Full and there's no room left in it, and it doesn't, my understanding, the lock doesn't work.
So there's a real need here.
No, there's a real need. It's just a question
The
of what.
question is what
is the
is the best
combination
use of the
printed on
funds?
the header?
We actually really need to get with the planning commission, see if we could get a $12,000 or $20,000 grant to have somebody do a real analysis.
Wow.
And come up with a plan that says, here's what you actually need, here's what you have. And we either have to do it here or we have to go somewhere
Yeah,
else.
do you wanna build, knock down the log cabin and build a building?
Yeah.
That's.
That's really what the conversation is. Is
Yeah,
it a
and I
better
mean-
use of the $1 million that you're gonna have to
Right.
spend?
Yeah, the first thing to do is
And that'll solve the problem.
you've got to do a
problem
structural
Right.
integrity
As well, yeah.
check on the log cabin. Does it need to be tore down or is
Right,
it structurally
understood, yeah.
sound to be used
Sure.
or?
Portions of it, I think, could be used. The way I would describe it is, it would be the log cabin could be the, what do they call it, the community center? And a small addition on the back would be the town hall. You know, like that type
When you
of
say
thing.
Yeah, again,
small, it
pure
would have to be the
speculation at this
current
point.
size of the town
Is
hall
that-
plus the downstairs.
speculation.
offices. That's not that
It's
small.
only about 2,500 square feet.
Yeah, there was a committee that went
Yeah.
and did something and came up with a
Yeah, we
recommendation.
did all the research. We did a lot of research.
I know.
on that.
Yeah.
We have quotes for it to be taken down, redone,
So you have, I mean, are
There's
you
some
aware?
basics, yeah, I have not looked at them yet, but I haven't even entertained the conversation, we're just.
I'm just saying,
getting there.
roll it back a year and then we'll be.
Yeah, we'll just make this.
Well,
look
that's
nice
what he's
and
already
move on.
done.
Move it up, we
basically.
can. I mean, there's
Oh,
nothing wrong with that.
absolutely,
Yeah.
I know that. It will take more than that amount of money, and it would either involve financing or big donation.
Yeah, but having it in the plan at
Yes.
least gives us.
To
a
keep it as a line
basic,
item.
let's get some money in the fund.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
Gotcha.
that's all we can do with that for now. It is in the future, it's not in the coming year's expenditures, so. Okay, next page. Must be Bridges, does it say Bridges? I don't see the
Well,
word.
it's actually on the bottom of the page before, it got hit in the page break.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, Bridge and Culvert Capital Fund, bottom of the previous page. All right, here we go. Bridges. So, let's see, in the coming year, there's 50,000 here for, what's that? Goose Pond Brook?
Yes,
What does that mean? That 50,000?
in 2000. Don't quote me, 11 or 12, there was 2 bridges built in town. Goose Pond, that's one of them, and the other one is River Road over the Mascoma. There was 2 bridges built. They had maintenance things that were supposed to be done, like resurfacing the bridge decks, redoing the bridge decks, bunch of things that we have not done.
Yeah, peel them and remembering.
Yeah, I hear you.
So there's a bunch of that. I threw 50,000 into each of them. I've been waiting for a couple of weeks from the engineer. He's gonna give me estimates and what needs to be done, but that's.
So it's for refurb.
it's-
Bottom line
both
is,
of them
it's
are
an
both
estimated cost for a refurb.
refurb, yeah, for extending the life of the bridge.
First time I'd heard about those two here.
Well, it was in the last meeting. We had just been talking about.
We
it.
didn't talk about it. Right, right. Exactly. So Potato Road, 2,950,000 with the offsetting 2,950,000 grant.
Yeah.
That kind of offset is what I was talking about earlier
Yeah.
on the ambulance.
Yeah.
We should show, all right. And then in 27, big numbers, almost $7 million.
That's Transfer Station Road Bridge.
Transfer Station
and
Road
Gristmill.
and Gristmill Hill Road.
Yeah.
And again, hopefully offset fully by state, federal grants, right?
Not, you'll see that we used close to $200,000. We have a match on the transfer station one. Of
Yes.
A couple $100,000.
Oh,
You'll
we
see
need
the-
a
the
match, all
separate-
right.
So the
Okay.
match, it's not listed as a separate line item. as
Doesn't
a
have to
match,
be.
But it goes down $150,000 our funds, so.
Right, I see it.
Transfer station, I know that's through state
Yes.
80/20. Is there any flood mitigation money that is
We-
coming in for that?
We got shot.
Okay,
We got murdered for that.
because they did.
They
do-
said no.
Hey, I do have a question.
They
Back
didn't
to what
do
you just said.
appropriate,
We did not follow the rules. We lost about 130 grand.
For what?
When the.
Nobody's perfect.
When that storm happened, it was the 2019 storm.
Yeah,
Lloyd?
They did not contact the historical groups and the environmental groups before they cleared and did a bunch of the work. And it would have been approved because you do it, they said they did it under emergency, but the bills were actually, the invoices were a month later than the storm. They had time to call them, so FEMA denied them.
It was inappropriate paperwork.
wow. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, that happened, well, a few months ago, a couple months ago.
Now,
The denial.
prior to that conversation, you mentioned something that I want to ask you to go back to. You could look down at the bottom of 26 column in this category. The balance forward is 217,221. See that number?
Yeah, and it's not carrying.
And
over.
then that, and the top of the next column says 78,280. And yet, we didn't spend
No.
anything in 26 according to this.
No.
Is that right?
No. Go back to your page before. The bottom line is actually the carry forward. That's the appropriation amount.
Oh, all right, so,
Because of the page break, it broke you. It broke your.
yeah, broke me. 217,221 becomes. I see it. Okay, never mind.
So we
That
gotta fix
answers
the
the
page break
question.
before we print it for the.
Yeah,
public.
I got it. That's fine.
Then don't leave that.
Well, we won't-
Don't leave that
Claude,
because
Is yours 5 years?
the
or 6 years?
145, 541 does not show up on the next. On 25.
No, it's an actual 25. One.
So. Oh, I gotta switch that one. When we budget, we do the carryover from the budget, and then when the actual happens, it's gotta transfer, and right now it's still reading the budget, so.
So what's the correction you need to make then?
I need to get the 145, 541 is the carryover for 25.
Good catch, huh?
So it goes up to the top of the.
Yeah.
All right. Sal, you had something a minute ago?
Yeah, just, you do 5 or 6 years on the CIP forward, Claude.
It's always been 6.
Okay.
Well,
That's why we're
that's
here.
the way it was. I
We're doing-
think it was
it's
called.
the budget year and 5, right?
No, that's fine. And
Yeah,
then-
the budget year.
'cause I mean,
and 5 more, yeah,
it
yeah.
looks like we're starting to build some serious dollars in this category, got over almost $600,000 at the end of 2030.
Talking about bridges.
Well, one thing about bridges, you don't do it often, but they're always really big bills.
I understand,
Yeah.
it's okay, I understand,
Right.
right? But a lot of the times, the bridges that we're doing get a lot of funding, and
Or-
600,000, if we're normally paying 20 to 25% of the freight,
The
that
only thing I
translates
will
to a
say
big
is,
number.
I would argue that we are very fortunate to have the 3 bridges we're getting that money on now. I
We
don't
are.
anticipate it happening again.
How many more bridges do we have, I guess, is there here,
There's a
right?
couple of more small ones,
Yes. This,
but
this
the
takes
problem
care
is,
of the major,
yeah, the bridge grants we're getting, and they actually will tell you. And actually, our engineer told us, I think he told us in one of the meetings.
Yeah.
It's like, they're gonna spend all this money, they expect you to follow the plan, included. In the proposal and in the engineering is the required maintenance plan.
Yep.
Because they're saying you're gonna do this so you can get your 120 years. And then you better be ready to build it when the 120 years comes by.
Okay, so they're saying you have to fund the entire thing.
Yeah, going
Nice.
forward.
Yeah.
The
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 next
other
one.
thing, by putting this money in for the River Road Bridge and Goose Pond Brook Bridge. To strip them and remembering,
Those 250,
repave those 250s. If we can do that this year, where we got these projects coming up, that shows the feds. That we have intentions on maintaining these
And-
bridges,
and I will
because
tell
that's
you
one of the things they're gonna look at is your history of follow-up.
And my other piece of this is we have several other small bridges and they ran in that $500,000 range. I don't know what their condition is, if there's one that's coming yet. That's what I don't know.
Right, and so should we not have some kind of an expenditure for maintenance line in here?
Well, I have the 50,000s are listed there. They're rehab. The 250,000s are for Goose Pond. It doesn't say maintenance. We have to spend 50,000 on that bridge.
Well, I'm just saying, one of the things that what I'm hearing is that we're required to, do maintenance on
Right.
bridges. So is there some plan for, some estimate about what that might cost each year moving forward for the bridges that we have to maintain?
Yes, and I'm waiting for that from the engineer.
Right, but so we don't have that yet.
And what I will do is on the bridges that we have, we will put the amount of money for each one of those things so that we can list it. Because every 5 or 10 years, there are certain things you have to do. And I know that it's almost like a complete reconstruction of the deck at 20 years.
Yes.
I just,
You know what I mean? So, and these are the things that we need to.
just trying to make sure that we're all being thoughtful and figuring out all
Oh,
the things that we
absolutely.
need to
No, the
figure out.
goal is,
Right, let's
Yeah,
not,
because
let's not get caught short again.
that's correct. And that's one of the things that when we're probably doing this next year. My anticipation is if you're gonna look at the bridge section, we're gonna be looking at the 20-25 years.
Mhm.
Because the stuff goes out there, you're gonna be like, why are we building this fund? Well, in year 15, we use it all.
I'm anticipating people, jumping up and down.
Right.
About why do you have $500,000, $600,000 in this fund?
And
Building up for the next.
No,
bridge.
I understand,
Yep.
but
and we
Right,
have to have
right.
that answer, and right now,
Exactly.
this is just a plan
Right,
to get through the next couple of years, and we will show you all the future expenses going.
they're not gonna be happy about that.
These, you got two
You know the guys I'm talking about.
Two
How
trestles
many
listed
people do you
here.
know
Guys,
that don't
One
even have a
litigation?
savings
Yes.
account?
excuse me, one meeting,
Have expended.
But that's their problem, not ours.
stop,
Did,
stop, one at a time, let's go to
Yeah.
Tom first.
Did we lose the flood mitigation for the trestles when we lost for the transfer station?
No, and actually, we just hired HEB, who's gonna be working on that stuff, but we're talking about the flood mitigation that is the
Mhm.
long-term plan. Those are included in that, and we have to get some numbers to put to that.
Okay. And then it says 2042, is that a typo? Should that be 2024? Under the budget year
I
for the upper trestle?
think they came from the, a previous plan, but I will check those.
So where is that again, please, Tom? Show me.
Upper and lower
Upper
trestle.
trestle.
Lower trestle,
Yeah, where's the, oh, I see, oh, 2042.
yeah.
I think that's a typo.
That's a little far.
I did a lot of work
Yeah.
on those
Not to worry, we won't
proposals.
be around.
And
That's true.
the original thought was to try to do them last year because there was going to be, there was some funding that we thought was gonna be available.
Right,
It went away, but 2042 was never the plan.
no, that's just.
That's just a typo. All right,
Okay.
you guys had something.
No, we were just
No,
wasting, we just.
I was just telling him that, when it comes, wanted to, talks about explaining these numbers. I said, it's hard to explain some of this savings account because the number of people out there who personally don't have savings accounts, so they don't see a need for one.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Okay, moving on. Then now that brings us to roads, right?
Yeah, we're at gravel.
Are we done? Does anybody else, I'm sorry, does anybody have any other questions about bridges before we move on?
We have, it appears I have two miscellaneous culverts lines, miscellaneous culverts and then miscellaneous culverts 462.
That's 462 culverts that they know of.
I understand.
Yeah.
So that's
So-
saying that that's the recommended appropriation annually to take care of all of our culverts.
Well, but there's a
The
miscellaneous culverts
miscellaneous
for
culverts is
two.
what we're actually
20.
supposed to be buying. And there's 20,000 should go out there each year.
I was gonna say, shouldn't there be an expenditure shown on the out years?
I
Yeah,
thought there was
Yeah.
one on, I thought I had one on there and it just disappeared.
so you're gonna add that.
So
So
there's
20 is
the-
for
the-
purchase and 37.5 is for maintenance? Is that what I'm
No,
doing?
37.5 is, if you took our 462 culverts and put a number to them, that's what it costs us a year if we replace them over 20 years,
Oh, okay.
30 or 40 years, I mean.
What he is saying though, Tom, is it should out in 2026, 2027. It should show us spending money
Right,
on those culverts, and it
Right.
doesn't. He's gonna add
And I
those
gotta
numbers.
add that in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
All right, now we're on to roads, right?
Right.
The first
Yeah,
one
yeah.
shows up is Abbott Road, next year, 8467.
That's just gravel roads, yeah.
Oh, this is gravel roads?
Yeah.
So
So-
36.5 is
All right.
what we had in the budget this year. There's no carryover.
Okay.
Unless we put it, this is gonna be part of the warrant article to
Right.
paving, we're gonna put paving and gravel together, and they will merge
Okay,
from,
these are cost of materials, right?
yes,
Right. Our highway crew does the work,
correct.
all right? Any questions on this section, bottom of this page?
Do you feel that 36.5 is even going to be close?
Well, the year we're proposing right now is 45.8.
Yeah.
Basically, this is the same discussion. Where's my stupid appropriation thing? It says we should be putting in 74,000. And it's the 5-year,
For
Incremental.
gravel roads?
yes.
Yes.
Whoa. Okay, so.
So basically, the reason it's 45 is it's 12,000, it's 60,000 or $50,000.
That portion of the 60, okay.
And that's the goal, is to increase it over 5 years to get to that 74,000.
To catch up.
I was just wondering if that's something that we needed to accelerate that a little bit, just because of the current spring conditions we've
Well,
had.
this is reconstruction.
Okay,
We have the 30 or 40,000 that's in. the
okay, that's
regular
gonna be on
budget.
top of with this.
That's the repair line item. This
Okay.
is rebuilding roads and sub-base for paved roads. If we have to replace sub-base, it comes out of this.
And I think it's, in this town, it appears that roads obviously are a big deal to people. So if you can somehow or other explain that there's actually a plan in place.
Yep.
Yeah, to do these things, this and the repairs and.
The goal is to use stone product sand, real gravels, so that as these things, and when we do get a melt, we're filling it with gravel, and over a couple of years,
You get a
they'll-
gradual
they'll firm
improvement.
up.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's like, 48 people in town who will know what you're talking about. The rest of them just want to hear that there's an actual plan in place and.
I understand. But I'm saying, these exact things I did where I was, and I had the same group of people.
Yeah, yeah.
And, to be honest with you, say, it's basically like, this is what we're doing, we have a plan, and they leave it for 2 years. And they start to see the improvement, and then the conversation ends.
No, my question here is,
I
because
no, I
we're,
understand. I'm just saying that, I'm just trying to give you a history because,
well, my question on
I've
this
sat in
is
the rooms
because,
where they jump up and down. Go ahead, sorry.
go ahead. Because we're diving into Switch Road and River Road.
Yeah.
That is gonna need some base material in some places to,
Yes.
improve. I just wanna make sure that we're on that track that,
Right, that should come from here.
yeah, okay.
But this gravel and the paving numbers will still be in the operating budget, and when the warrant articles are written, it's just a transfer, it's not to raise funds.
Which we already talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
So
the
it's a-
400.
Yeah,
All right, next page. It's a bunch of roads listed, projections out in the future for the coming year. I see, Larry Pond Road, for example. And what does that say? Public Waters Road? What's that? 30,037. I went to the next page, right?
you still on gravel?
Well, I just turned the page.
Yeah, you're on gravel still.
Yes,
Still on gravel.
So,
And I'm asking about the $30,037 in 2025. The road list is Public Waters Road. What does that mean?
I don't, oh, you know what road that is? That's the, it must be the road that goes to the reservoir.
That's what I'm wondering.
So that's what it costs, that based on the length of it and rebuilding the gravel,
It
that's
needs
what.
to be, and it needs to be rebuilt this coming year, huh?
Well, that,
According to this.
yes, because that is a swamp, from what I've heard.
Okay, so who put these numbers in the years here? Did Bob?
The numbers were listed in the plan, and yeah, we did identify some, these were actually the years that were projected last year.
Road
And
by road?
all we've done is. the
Who
only
did
thing
that? So I'm wondering, who did that projection? Do you know?
Don't know the answer to that.
Interesting.
But, so there is a financial plan in place that says we're gonna be doing public water roads,
Right.
spending this kind of money. I think, is there any written version of, where this came from?
I don't know, I'll have to check with John.
Yeah, I think, because for me, I believe that this is probably accurate, but I think there are people gonna say, well, where's the real, why is that road?
Right.
Do you're gonna get those
I'll talk to
questions.
John and we'll get,
It's kind of like the heavy equipment, when we got the mechanic to do, here's the thing, everybody calmed right down.
Right.
Right, if you have.
this is one of
A
those
similar-
things
Go ahead.
that we need to review again. Because one of the little things, we've got $1,700 in for Ramier Road. Ramier Road was
Kicked off.
disbanded
Yeah,
last
right.
March.
Where, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the 1,700, first of all.
Down on your list, the full
Yeah.
page of
You're
roads,
right,
Yeah.
That's right.
if you look down, 3/4 way down Ramier Road,
No more.
Just below
I
public.
see
waters.
Rainier Road, yeah. That's only in the estimated replacement. I see no expenditure out in the line.
no, but it's just that the road doesn't exist as a town road.
Right.
it's not a
Right,
town road
road.
anymore.
Oh,
Let's
so you're
just get rid
saying
of it.
take it off.
That's what I'm saying, that
Oh, yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
gonna have to
Yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
reviewed, because that's no longer a town road, that's now private road.
Um, from my time on the planning board, I knew about that because the
Yes.
planning board has to be involved. There are no others that have been removed in the last year. or two.
None that I know
Okay.
of, no.
Then the list of roads that he worked with was generated 2 years ago by 2 members of the planning
Yeah.
board. And they spent many hours.
No, I don't,
So it's
I'm,
not in bad shape.
no, I'm just saying that we
Yeah, yeah.
still, this is something.
Ramio Road is the one,
Yeah, but I'm saying this is something, these are generated, but your highways need to be reviewed at least annually on
Right.
those values.
Right.
You know, just because with a frost,
You
can
never know
take a
what's gonna
road that
happen.
looks great and have a stone sticking this high out of it next spring.
That's a different issue. Condition of the road needs
Yes.
to be reviewed every year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So is
any other
that
questions
the
on
highway
this page?
responsibility, the highway guy's responsibility?
Normally, yes.
You know, if I
Is there
could
any
tie
way that
that,
we can get, the town people to have like a place where they can send comments too about roads that they see problems with?
Well,
That will be, when we get the new website up,
Okay,
they'll have that option to do such.
okay.
Right now, we have a box about this big and down off there.
No, no, yeah, I'm just saying that would be helpful,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
So just a thought for you, Chad, you know, there's an open action item that says that you and Bob are gonna work on a way to make sure that this list of roads stays in sync with the list of roads that are out there on the website.
Right.
We keep
Well, to
those
be
in
honest with
sync,
you,
so,
what we're gonna start with is once we know we're 100% go with these, our list, the town list of roads is gonna be up
right,
with conditions.
I didn't get to my thought.
Yeah.
There's an open action item that says you guys are gonna do that. What I wanted to suggest now, based on the comment I just heard, is maybe somewhere in that activity, you can figure out the best place to have just an indicator, I'll call it a column in the spreadsheet of that particular road's condition that gets updated year to year. What we just said, you know, reevaluate each road. This one's in fair condition, good condition, you know, excellent condition, whatever it may be. Perhaps that activity could address the question of condition as well.
Yes.
That's what I'm suggesting. All right? Next page,
That, the bottom section is the.
it's the bottom section, yeah,
That's the-
okay,
That's where they start, and then you got a full sheet.
so. I see first says. Gravel road plan, that's just the totals of the gravel road section. Highway paving plan is totals. Those are big numbers. Now, highway paving, is that asphalt and such that comes on the page
Yeah.
after or what?
Well, yeah, highway paving. you
Are
have your
these two
appropriation
sheets
there.
out of sequence?
No, it's just, this is
Nope.
the top half of this piece.
Oh, it's the top half of that piece, all right, gotcha. All right, so
I mean, technically, if you do that, that's.
Like
where it's
this.
supposed to look. There you go.
that's what I'm doing, right? Did everybody see what we've got here? What Chad is saying is, that's the right way to look at this.
Yeah.
Okay. See, you see that, Tom?
Yeah,
All right. Now, so having said that, let's look at it. Now I see the 400K you talked about earlier, okay?
So a number of these roads are in the bond plan that you're,
But what I did.
Okay, I think we have a typo.
Alright.
For Goose Pond Road. 2046. Budget
Oh, yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, no,
Budget year,
because I overwrote because we put the financing in the current one.
Okay,
That's the next round.
okay,
now
that's,
that's the next round.
That's the
Oh.
next round. That's how that ended up that way.
All
But
right.
what I
next
did
round.
was, is when you look at the $400,000 that we have planned in the appropriation for this year. We would use that typically to run a paving project, for the year, but because we're talking about doing a combination of 3 roads in a bond. That $400,000, my thought was if we take $300,000 of that money. And apply it to the roads before we're going to the financing. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what the 138,000 is, the 36,000 and the 126. Basically, I gave the apportion. Based on the value of the roads,
Can't follow those numbers. Where were you?
down in
just
the
now?
yellow, down the yellow stripe.
fiscal year 2025.
Okay.
138,000.
Yeah, got it?
That is, those 3 total $300,000.
Yeah,
So those are the down payments that we're coming up with in cash.
fine,
And then we have a $1.6 million bond.
right?
For a
Then
10-year
start
loan.
using,
And
yeah,
then you, after the 138, you see the 87,000, that's how much of it would be applied to,
yep,
Goose Pond Road.
Yep.
22,000 applied to
Yep,
River Road.
yep,
And 79 to Switch. So those roads will all get done. Okay, and
I
now
see it.
within that, you're still looking at the 400,000 and just. Basically, just a small increase to get to where we're supposed to be, you know, with the inflation.
yep,
And we're still in 2027 while we probably wouldn't even be paving Goose Pond till then.
no,
We're gonna be paving. Gristmill Hill Road at the same time, because that's the year the bridge goes in, so we'd be able to pave that mile that's kind of a mess. So we would be able to, even making those payments out of the paving budget, we'd still be able to be doing other roads, like transfer station roads. And Stark Hill Road.
so you just mentioned Grist Mill Hill, why don't I see an expenditure in the Grist Mill Hill line
You do,
2 or 3 years out? I don't think I do.
2027.
2027, 236,
Oh,
244.
that's on that line?
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, no, it's there.
I've tried to follow across.
So,
and I
so
missed
when
it.
you
All
look at
right.
those, we're going out, and then beyond that, there was a couple of more roads in there. But we're able to keep paving roads and getting caught up when we have this one done, and we're still only using that same pot of money. So the goal is that if we're gonna continue with the 400,000 we've already put in, it's in this current year's budget. And just apply the 3% to it, we're going to be able to pave. What amounts to be 1, 2, 3, 6 roads over the next 3 years.
And 10 years to pay for it.
Right, well, and you're.
Out, but that's what I'm saying, because you're using, without increasing, because you're using the current appropriation
Right,
from that to make the payment.
and we will be able to continue to do other roads, we hadn't gotten anything
Yes.
further out there. And then at the end of 10 years, you should never have to finance again, this should be a one-time deal, if they keep the funding up.
Alright, so let's talk 2026 for a minute. We're basically saying that we're gonna start taking bond money in 2026.
We're going to take the money in 2025, the first payment will be due in 2026.
Okay, and that's the 87, 22, 79,
And 22,808 and
Yeah,
79.
those three numbers.
Those three numbers.
Yeah, because that 87, that's probably going to just hopefully cover engineering costs for Goose Pond.
Okay. And then we say that we're gonna ask for a tax appropriation of 412.
Yeah.
What portion of that tax appropriation is gonna be offset by bond money? The answer is 87, 22, 79.
I'm confused by that.
Okay, so we're gonna get bond money.
The bond money is going to be all spent, it's here it is, these are our monthly payments, our annual payments.
Right, but this was a drawdown. We're drawing down on the bond. This is
The
what,
drawdown all happens in 25.
it all happens in 25.
Yeah, because we're gonna get funded in 25.
So we'll go, how much are we gonna draw down in 2025?
I guess you're asking if we actually take in the cash?
Yes.
The
That's what he's
second half
asking.
of the cash will come in 26, but that doesn't have anything to do with the 87,000. That's just continuing to pay construction costs
Right,
as we get there,
yeah,
because that will be the year that Goose Pond Road gets finished and paved.
yeah,
Most of the cost. I think only 600,000 will be left for 26.
okay,
Is the way, if we get all the drainage done and the other roads completed. I think that cost is only like $650,000.
so maybe help me out. Where does the 1.6 show up in this document?
You got,
Oh, as a revenue item?
Yeah.
Didn't show it as a revenue item. Because it's not technically revenue, we're making the payments on it,
Right, right.
it's not a revenue item.
Just like the 4 trucks that were leased up
Cause I
above.
was thinking about
show
doing.
payments,
I
but we
was
don't
thinking
show
about doing it
revenue.
as a separate line item, but I wanted people to see which roads were actually getting worked on as part of that.
Mhm.
But it's not a revenue item, you don't show that as
Right,
income
it's not
because
real revenue.
we wouldn't be expended, it would look like we have
Yeah,
$1.4 million in the bank at the end of the year.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we don't
Which
have.
we don't.
which we don't, it's,
Yeah.
again.
Because
I think
we
you're right.
get it, as we
Right.
expend it, we get reimbursed, we don't get new money.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I
Otherwise,
think
we
that's
could have
right.
had that conversation,
It's a reimbursement,
it's a reimbursement.
so.
Again, it's like,
so-
if I may, it's like a home equity line of credit.
I understand.
If I put the roof on and I get a bill for 20 grand and I go to the
You
bank
hand it to the bank.
and they give me 20 grand. I didn't have any money. I still don't have any money, but, so it's
So
not really.
You've
revenue.
got the payment though.
So the 412 includes the payment on the bond.
That is correct. The
Right.
payment is being.
Yeah,
covered in the 412.
yeah.
So it's not
Yeah.
like you're getting a bond payment for the town that's outside of the paving budget.
No, I understand.
It's gonna be bonded and paid for within the operations budget of the,
Well, the reserve budget. that we're
Yeah,
gonna
In this
provide.
case.
So all I'm
the
saying is
budget,
that
it's approved.
Conceptually, that, so that people can understand,
Mhm.
right? Somewhere we ought to say, the 412, some of that is, the 412 includes the bond payments.
Yes,
Yeah,
So that people
Absolutely includes the
understand that
bond
there's no
payments, yes.
additional dollars.
that is correct, it's no additional.
Right.
bill.
I get you, but what I'm saying is, get, make it.
Well, that would have to
clear.
be in the explanation for each bond article and out to the public.
Understood.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah,
let's-
no, and that's one of the things that I'm gonna talk about is, as we get these reserve funds, is that those reserve funds are intended to pay for all expenses related to whatever they're for.
No, I know that's the concept and
And then we
I
will
get
write
it.
that and say, there will be no additional payments in the budget.
Right.
For the bond, it'll stay in the roads budget.
But that's the question that shows up
Yep.
in my mind.
That's fine.
Okay.
And that's one that it's easy to, that one's easy to address.
Good.
Mhm.
Yes.
So the grand
look.
total, we wanted to add all these up. Does it only appear on here?
Yes.
It's not at the bottom of this.
Well, this has,
This
the
big
one, the
spreadsheet.
bottom of the page you have includes ambulance. I pulled these all out.
Bottom of
get
the
it-
page I have. If I look at it,
There's-
it
it's
ends
all-
with highway paving plan balance.
Oh, well,
forward.
there's another line down below that.
Don't
that I-
see that.
Okay. I will-
That's what I'm asking.
Well, but I
Oh,
wanna
okay.
pull the ambulance out of there, then it will match.
Okay, and there is another line to be shown.
Yes.
Which is the grand
Grand
total,
total of all.
all the categories above.
Correct.
All right. Cause that, I need to see that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. So we've talked about a number of adjustments that
Yeah.
House. The sooner you can get that out to us, the better before the next and hopefully final meeting. So I know it's a challenge, see what you can do.
The only thing that is really a challenge at all is any of the items I don't technically have yet. I mean, other than that, getting these little corrections done, that's no problem.
Right.
It's just then I gotta get the other shit done.
So your report, Claude, is gonna pretty much be in depth on the items that we just discussed. With comments on, we've reviewed ambulance, and what's the other enterprise one?
There's only
Funds.
ambulances.
Was it only ambulance that?
Yeah, we
That's
talked
the
about
only
the
enterprise.
We
water,
did review water and sewer.
Yes.
so we're gonna
Water
talk
and
about those
subside.
later at a different
And
time.
transfer station as well, right?
Well,
The transfer
station's
station is not an
enterprise.
enterprise fund.
Not, oh.
No.
No,
Okay.
no.
Water, sewer,
Water and sewer
ambulance.
is, do they consider that an enterprise fund? It's
Yes,
Yes.
ratepayer based.
Water is an enterprise fund, sewer is an
Oh,
enterprise
two
fund.
different. Ha,
They are actually
It's
two
two
different
separate, yeah.
I
departments,
didn't know that.
because
Okay.
we have people who are on water
Yeah, yeah,
that do not
I
have sewer.
understand. Okay.
there's-
So they are
Those-
two
those
separate.
And then there's ambulance.
yeah,
yeah.
and where's transfer station? That's,
It's
That's in the
government
budget.
buildings.
Between capital or general budget.
okay,
It's not an enterprise fund.
right. And the only thing we're dealing with in the capital is the buildings.
Yes,
That's right. Yeah.
Everything.
Well,
else is
if they
the-
were to need a truck, for example, then that would go in capital.
I understand.
All right.
That's not. the-
At the moment, there's no.
That's
truck
not this
or
year's
anything.
discussion yet.
Right, right.
Okay.
Good, great.
Have you heard anything back from the insurance company on that burn trailer?
no, I know they did it,
I know they came and looked,
well, they came and looked, he determined that the trailer was newer than we had listed on our thing.
yes,
And it was gonna help our values, and I've not heard anything since.
okay. The JR asked me this morning if we had heard
He
anything,
wants to get rid of it.
because he hasn't heard any. Well, he wants to make sure that the insurance company has in their estimate to clean up the ground underneath.
Okay, well, I can call him and ask him that.
Yeah. They've got it bermed.
Yeah.
But every time it rains, of course, you get that caustic that comes through the, what,
We should be about now, either getting a check or getting a something. but
Yeah.
Last couple of times, all they've done is they send a check in the mail. We don't hear anything
Yeah.
before or after. It's just like,
Really?
yeah.
you get the check and you
Is
say,
JR getting this platform fixed or what?
Back in the
Yes.
agenda,
All right. I
we
just
want
wanted to
to
know. Okay,
confirm next week, we hope will be our last meeting. When I say hope, it has to be almost, because otherwise we don't have time to
Yeah.
make the timetable for the rest of the budget year. So please, everybody, as soon as you can get out the spreadsheet, everybody look at it as carefully as you can before the meeting, so
And
that we
send,
can,
and send notes back if there's
have a
something you see,
productive
because
meeting.
then I can make
right.
corrections too, so.
all right.
I know how to
Notes by
find you.
email?
Yes.
All right, good.
I
And
know how
uh,
to find you.
is there any
Well, I know
other?
you
Over in the air probably every day.
Well, you want anything in the minute about our discussion of the spreadsheets?
You can simply say we reviewed what I've always done in the past is we reviewed the detailed, financial, cost plans in spreadsheets. You don't have to, you certainly can't repeat every single one, there's no need to.
Okay.
It's just a general statement that we've spent significant time reviewing the numbers in detail. That should be
All I
enough, I
need to
think.
know.
Is there any other business?
Motion to adjourn?
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
thank you. Good job. Good job.